Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Woe. So today is the last in my little series of where to start with recommendation videos for romance for this romance month. And we're doing contemporary romance today because I think that that's really like the bread and butter of romance in a lot of ways these days. And there's a very wide variety of types of contemporary romance one can pursue, so I tried to get a nice little mix in here, but even more so than the other two, I think this is going to be one that is very idiosyncratic to me and the kind of contemporaries that I like to read. I think again, I've said this a lot in these videos, but my real goal is to pick things that are friendly points of entrance for folks, things that could be a good first romance read. And while these of course are going to be idiosyncratic to me and what I have read and what I think is a good choice, I hope that this is at least somewhat applicable to lots of people, just because I do think that it can be a good place to start. So let's just get into it. My first recommendation is for an entry in Shannon Stacey's Kowalski Family series, which I mentioned in my Romance for Noobs recommendations. The specific title I'm picking is Falling for Max, and the reason I wanted to pick this one is because to me, it epitomizes what I love in a kind of beta hero and sort of like a geeky hero. Max is just the sweetest, and I just thought that it was a very sweet story. Not sweet, sometimes you'll just FYI, sometimes you'll hear the term sweet romance in the sense of it means that there's no explicit sex in it, so it's not that, but it is a very sweet story. So I thought that might be kind of a good, like, somewhat chick litty choice, and also small town romance. So a lot of people I think could connect with that one. The next is the first in the series by Julie James that I've been recommending for people who like chick lit, and that is Something About You. That is the first book in her FBI U.S. Attorneys series, and I think that that is a series that really could connect with a lot of readers, especially ones that are kind of used to reading more like women's fiction, chick lit, whatever. The women in those stories are so smart. They're very career focused. The heroes love that about them, like they give as good as they get kind of a thing. It's a nice little dynamic that those books have. So I would definitely recommend Something About You as the first in that entire series. I think they're all really good fun. And then another one that came up in my kind of Romance for Noobs recommendations was Susan Mallery and her Fool's Gold series. I'm actually not recommending the first in that series, likewise for the Shannon Stacey recommendation, because that's actually I think like the 8th-ish book in that series. This I think is the 13th book in the Fool's Gold series, somewhere around there, and that is Before We Kiss by Susan Mallery. And the reason I chose this one is because of all of those books, to me it's the funniest. Essentially the hero's an ex-football player, the heroine is a event planner, and the hero's mother is like a very kind of like progressive hippie sex counselor therapist, and she just she ends up coming to town, and she is just outrageous and says lots of crazy things, and the hero is so embarrassed by her. But anyway, I thought that was a really cute book, and it made me smile, so I thought that was a good choice for the Fool's Gold series if you're interested in that one. And again, that's a small town romance, which, I mean, this actually, I should mention, Fool's Gold is really what sold me on romance. I don't think I mentioned that, but somebody recommended it to me, or I think like some algorithm somewhere online, it got recommended to me as, if you like Gilmore Girls, you might like this series. And that was really what sold me on, oh, okay, not all romance is like terribly written. Not all romance is like super like, I don't know, like alpha male, whatever. Like this was the series that kind of got me into romance, so I have a soft place in my heart for it. Anyway, moving on to one that is a standalone, pretty much, and that is by Mariana Zapata, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. Disclaimer is Mariana Zapata has to work on her titles, and actually the newest one I think is something like From Lukov with Love, I think is what the newest one is going to be called, so that's an improvement. But The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, I really love this book. This is probably one of my favorite romances just because it's a slow burn, which I really like, so the hero and the heroine are not jumping in bed together. It is a fake relationship / marriage of convenience plot, which I talked about in my Know Your Tropes videos. I love that. The hero is an athlete, which I tend to like those pretty well. He's a linebacker, and the heroine is a graphic designer who used to be his assistant, and that's how they end up in their relationship. And it takes a long time for them to get together. There's a lot of interesting kind of like family dynamic stuff happening. There's a lot of other things happening in their lives, and it really is a progression where he essentially starts the book by really getting himself in the shit house with her, and really he works the rest of the book to kind of regain her trust and to take their relationship to the next level. So anyway, I just think that it's a really good one. I really like Mariana Zapata, and it's very crackalicious. Like, if you like her writing, you'll definitely get drawn in. The next one is also a standalone title, and that is Act Like It by Lucy Parker. Now, if you follow the blog Smart Bitches Trashy Books, you will know that this is a big favorite over there. That's how I heard of it, and I'm so glad I did, because I do think that this is a really well done category romance. Technically, I think that this is definitely category length, and I think it's a Harlequin book. I'm not sure. It's not marketed that way, but anyway, who knows. But it's category-esque, and it's just really well done. It's set in the London theater scene, and it's between two actors, and again, it's a fake relationship. There's a theme here. I really like this. And he's sort of like this gruff, kind of older, really well-established actor. Not older, but like, he's in like his mid to late 30s, and she's sort of in her mid to late 20s, fresher faced ingenue type, and it's about their fake relationship and how it grows into something more. And it's really well done. It's got a very, again, a light touch, which you guys know is something that I enjoy. The next one's another one you've heard me talk a lot about, and that is The Obsession by Nora Roberts. In my opinion, this is the best standalone thriller, romantic suspense type book she's ever written. I really, really like it. Another repetitious thing here is that I really like the family dynamics in it. It's a book that doesn't really introduce the hero, I don't think, until like a third of the way through. So the first third of the book really is about the heroine, this very traumatic experience that she survives, and how her family comes together. This is also a book that I point to as a great example of how to incorporate LGBT supporting characters in a way that is actually meaningful and not just like window dressing, because her uncles who end up raising her are just like the best. I really love them in that book. I think they're just such a sweet couple, and like, you see some tension between her uncle and her mom about him being gay, but that's not like overplayed, I don't think. Anyway, I think it's a great example of some diversity in a way that's not that doesn't feel pandering. It feels organic to the story, which I always like to see. And in general, I just think it's a nice suspenseful book, and it has competence porn. It has small town setting. They're renovating a house, so you get to, hear about all that. So anyway, I really like that one a lot. And then number 7 is Beauty and the Billionaire by Jessica Clare. So this is another Beauty and the Beast retelling. You guys know that I'm a sucker for those. And this is one of the most erotic on this list. I would probably describe this as a hot romance, where it is not erotica and it is not erotic romance, but it is very it is on the most sexually explicit end before you get to those. Another side note, I was mentioning sweet earlier. You kind of have this progression, and you learn to understand what these kind of coded words mean the more you read in the genre, but sweet means there's no sex. I don't know what quite the right word is for little sex, but sort of like lightly sexual. Then there's kind of like the normal standard, which I think, there's sex, but it's not it's not the most important part of the story. It's described, it's not necessarily like dwelt upon. Then you get into what I think this is, which is like a hot romance, where there is quite a bit of sex. It is more dwelt upon, but there's still a lot more happening in the story. Erotic romance to me means it is extremely sexual. The sex is a very big part of the plot itself. It's a very important component. And then erotica is essentially like specifically written to titillate, let's say. So all that to say, Beauty and the Billionaire and this whole series from Jessica Clare, I would describe as like hot romance. So there's quite a bit of sex, but in this particular one, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It has a virgin hero, which I love. I love seeing those. So that's a big, so the sex in it, though it is hot, to me, it's an important part of the plot because it's, you know, he's the reason he's a virgin basically is because he's like a recluse after he had this accident. And so the sex is sort of about him like accepting his own body and accepting that the heroine can have desire for him. So I thought that that was really well handled. It's got some nice humor in it. It is a Billionaire book that doesn't make me want to punch something because a lot of times I don't really like those, but I think she handles that trope quite well. She's got 2 series that come off of this, that this book is a part of. So this book, Beauty and the Billionaire, is the best book that she's written in that whole little canon. So she took that central couple and that's in this book and made them a part of a spin-off series. But this is called the Billionaire Boys Club, I believe. And then the spin-off series is Billionaires and Bridesmaids, and the bridesmaids are to this couple's wedding. So anyway, I really like that book and it hits a lot of my kind of favorite tropes. The next one's another one from Jessica Clare because as if you guys have been watching this, you know that I really do quite like Jessica Clare a lot. Just her writing tone really resonates with me. And that is Playing Games by Jessica Clare. And this is a part, the reason I included this is because I thought this might be kind of it's a fun premise for this whole series. So this whole series has heroes and heroines who are meeting because they're both on a reality competition show. So there was one that was like Big Brother, there's one that's like Survivor, there's a few different ones, and this one, Playing Games, is one that's like The Amazing Race. And I just think that that element of it kind of adds a nice external conflict, which you guys know is important to me. That tends to be kind of what I prefer. And it takes like these, I just think it's a unique kind of idea and premise for a series. There's also one based on The Bachelor. Anyway, there's a bunch of different ones in that series that are a lot of fun, and my favorite one is probably Playing Games. It has a heroine who is sort of, she's there because her brother wants her to be there, and she's trying to get money to start up her own cake business, and the hero is a rock star. I say that out loud and then I think, why would a rock star ever be on one of those shows? But anyway, she sold it to me in the book, so we'll just roll with that. Okay, number 9 is One Night with Her Best Friend by Noelle Adams. This is a series I think I've mentioned before of novellas that I really enjoy from Noelle Adams. I think she's a very underappreciated writer in romance because I think she writes, she's probably my favorite novella writer, especially like a contemporary novella writer in romance. I think she really understands how to pick a conflict that she can resolve in that amount of time, and she does a really good job setting up the premise so that it is believable and you actually think these two people are going to be together forever by the end of the like 90 pages. So I think she's really skillful at doing that. I like that entire One Night, and then I think there's also a 1 week that's a similar kind of thing. But the One Night series I really enjoy, and I picked One Night with Her Best Friend. It's probably my favorite, mostly because I really do love that friends to lovers trope, and I think she handles that very nicely. So that's a recommendation for you guys. Another one that showed up on my list of places to start for noobs was Kristen Higgins. So I just went ahead and picked my favorite Kristen Higgins. I don't think that it's a favorite for everyone, but I really enjoyed it, and it's called All I Ever Wanted, and it's about a very like reserved kind of beta hero. Again, theme, I really like those. And he's a vet who's sort of like a little bit, he's just very shy, basically, and he's had some bad past love experiences, and a very outgoing, very bubbly heroine who is like the second in command at her marketing firm. And this one really is very close to chick lit, I think, in a lot of ways. I mentioned that Kristen Higgins, I think, is somebody who really, you could probably sell either way. But I quite like this particular title. I think that he's a vet, so there's a lot of adorable pets, which I always appreciate in my romance. There's a good, I think that the tension between the hero and heroine is nice because he's very shy and she's very outgoing. And also, just for reference, Kristen Higgins always has closed bedroom doors, so these are technically sweet romances, so if you're not interested in reading explicit sex scenes, she's somebody you can go to. Yeah, she's got a lot of really good ones. I think I think the one that a lot of people cite as their favorite is Just One of the Guys. I think that's another Friends to Lovers one that is really, really good, but it's a little too emotional for me. I mean, I still really liked it, but I prefer All I Ever Wanted. And finally, my last recommendation on this list, I wanted to give some erotic romance recommendation in this context. So I decided to go with one called The Theory of Attraction by Delphine Dryden. And the reason this is far and away my favorite erotic romance I've ever read. And it's because I think that this does a very nice job of balancing the power dynamics at play, because the hero is like an extreme, is a genius. He's a PhD. So again, nerd, you're really seeing some themes here in what I like based on my recommendations. But he's a nerd. She's also, I think, like either a PhD or she works in a lab at the same university. So she's also a little bit geeky. But anyway, they are getting together and he is introducing her to the world of like bondage, basically. And you guys know I'm not always that into that, but he is so socially awkward that he is gonna get passed over for a promotion. So she is at the same time kind of teaching him about social niceties. And I think that those combination, like he's teaching her something, but she's also teaching him something like explicitly. And so I think that kind of balances the power dynamic out quite a bit in a way that made me much more comfortable with how they were talking about the BDSM pieces of things. A lot of times I get a little uncomfortable with some of the gender dynamics there. So this one I thought was actually like really good at kind of balancing the playing field, and by the end of it I really felt like you kind of see how they complement each other and how this could be something sustainable. So those are all my recommendations for contemporary romance. Like I said, I think maybe even more so than the other two genres I've talked about, there are so many subgenres in contemporary romance that it's very hard to hit them all. So really I was focused on the ones that I enjoy, that I read quite a bit of. And, so you didn't see anything in here about like new adult, because well, you know what? I will give you a bonus recommendation, because there is one new adult book that comes to mind that I really do enjoy, and that is Beautiful Secret, I believe it's called, by Christina Lauren. I haven't read a lot in that series, but it's one that I want to read more of, and I want to read more from Christina Lauren, that writing team, because I thought that it was really well handled and it didn't feel pandering to me in a way that a lot of new adult does, and it also didn't lean on a traumatic backstory, which is one of my biggest critiques of new adult, is I think that they rely too much on like essentially rape as a backstory in a way that I find a little uncomfortable. So anyway, there's a bonus recommendation for a new adult book. But anyway, all that to say, people in the comments who read a lot of romance, feel free to be, kind of shooting out some recommendations for where people should start with contemporary romance, depending, and, kind of say why you think it's a good place for them to start. But I always like getting recommendations going. So anyway, that is all of my where to start with videos for romance. I think I have I'm trying to remember when this is going to come out. I think I do have a couple of other videos that are going to be coming out, but we're getting towards the end of Romance Month here, and I've had fun kind of deep diving on a genre, so I'll have to do this again next year, pick a genre, pick a month, and kind of do a deep dive. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having a really great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye!